Welcome to the Brew Crew Review Podcast, the show by fans for fans of your Milwaukee Brewers. Welcome back, Brewer fans, to the Brew Crew Review Podcast, number 43. Joining me, of course, like pretty much every week, besides the ones I dip out on, are Scott and Vince. How you doing?
Hey, Craig, how are you?
Doing all right.
Doing great, Craig.
Pretty good.
Yeah. A lot of fun out here. In Washington this week, which is just to see the Brewers was great, and winning the series was even better. So, pretty excited. Just getting back from National Park right now.
Yeah. So I guess we'll start off the episode by mentioning that this week, I think a lot of us nailed the prediction. We went 4-2. We won both series, 2 games to 1 against the Nationals, and first of all against the Reds earlier in the week, and then of course on the road against the Nationals. So it's a pretty nice road trip this week. Bring us back to Miller Park against the big series against the Cubs now, starting on Labor Day. But the other nice little part of my prediction was that I thought the Brewers would go 3-3 if we did Scherzer on the last Sunday of the week, and if they somehow push them back a day, we go 4-2, and that's exactly what happened. And I don't know. Part of me wants to think that, and we'll talk about the deal later, that the Brewers acquired a national, his name's Gonzalez, right before the August trade deadline, and maybe that was part of the contingency of the trade that, the GM was thinking push them back a day. I don't know. But regardless, we won the game, so that was good. What are you guys' thoughts on this week?
Yeah, I mean, it was a fun week. I think that, fans should be happy with a 4-2 road trip. The game last night, so we're taping this on Sunday, the game on Saturday, game 2 of the series against the Nationals was a game that the Brewers did lead, and pretty fun game to be at in many ways for at least most of the game. The Brewers are winning 3-1 in the 7th, and then a deluge came, and the game was delayed for over an hour and 20-some minutes, and unfortunately lost it when the game was resumed. I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on whether or not that game should have been called when it was delayed for that long at that point in the game, or if it was just kind of bad luck and another bad outing from the Brewers bullpen recently. But don't mean to dwell on that. Overall, very happy with the 4-2 trip. And as a quick side note, I just wanted to throw out major props to Brewer fans who were at the road series, at least in Washington, D.C., having been to all 3 games out here. It was just incredible, the amount of Brewer fans. I just took the Metro home following the game, and I honestly, it was about 80% Brewer fans on the train, and at the stadium itself, it was probably at least 50-50 between Brewers and Nats fans. It was unbelievable. So great show of support from Brewer fans out there.
Well, I did want to, say one quick thing really quick. You guys know, unfortunately, Chad could not be with us. He was doing, he's doing a Harley thing today, like a Harley festival. So
That's right.
I don't know, Craig, if you want to edit some music that Harley people really like maybe some Elton John into this podcast, I would really think that might be kind of cool. But
great reference, proving that Scott Bartell is indeed from Milwaukee. That is awesome.
Yeah,
that's great.
No, it was definitely a great series. We actually threw it up on Twitter just for fun, just to see what people thought, and maybe it was the outcome of the game that may have skewed this poll, because 62% of you said that this game, by having it continue, risk injury, and it was a bad idea, we should have just called it. Me personally, I think it's fine. I don't know. I mean, they can handle a little rain. It's no big deal. So, I'm not happy with the outcome. Obviously, would have liked to see us use some of our all-stars in that game. But since we had used them the day before, and Council is very, rigid in how he's going to use both Jeffers and Hader from here on out, it seems. Just didn't work out. Unfortunately, we didn't use them either today because we wound up winning by such a margin. So that wound up being kind of a good thing. But now they're going to be very well rested for this Cubs series.
Yeah, 2 points on that one really quick, Scott. So, number one, Joaquin Soria clearly had a moment where he truly just slipped and fell on the mound last night while delivering a pitch in that awful 8th inning, and it was pretty clear that he just couldn't get a grip. Now, that being said, both teams had to play in those conditions after the rain delay too, and the game was able to be played at some point, so it is what it is. But obviously not ideal conditions, and I do think that they did play a factor at least in the bullpen. But again, both teams had to play through that. On the other point about Hader and Jeffers, I actually did have the opportunity yesterday to talk with Lee Tunnell during the game, and he had said flat out during the rain delay that Josh Hader was not going to be available at all last night, no matter what. So interesting. I guess it's not too newsworthy since we had seen him throw a couple games in a row, 2 games prior to that, but he had not pitched the night before, and the plan was not to pitch him in game 2 as well. So now he hasn't pitched in game 3, wasn't needed today. So he's had essentially a full series off out here in DC. So interesting.
So just to clarify there, was he saying that Hader wasn't going to pitch no matter what because of the weather or the conditions out there, or he wasn't going to pitch because his arm was tired?
He didn't specify, and there's a bit of a backstory, and it's weird for, despite us having press passes, it's weird to be able to talk to guys during the middle of the game. But I happened to be sitting with Josh Hader's dad for the last couple innings of the game, and Lee Tunnell walked out and came over and talked to him for a bit because they know each other. And I was sitting there and got a chance to just be part of the conversation, which was interesting. And he flat out just said that Josh wasn't going to throw at all last night. So he told his dad that during the rain delay, and very interesting. So it certainly was not in the Brewers' plans to throw him. And I got the sense that the same was true of Jeremy Jeffers after a very high leverage save situation the night before when Jeffers had pitched the 9th and Bryce Harper was up with 1 out and the bases were loaded, and somehow Jeffers did shut him down and managed to earn the save in a very tight bottom of the 9th inning for the Nationals. But Tunnell didn't really specify in that case, but it was definitely very clear that he wasn't going to be pitching last evening.
That's interesting inside information. Some of the stuff we sometimes get from our anonymous source.
Tom Carter
anymore.
Tom Carter, yeah.
No,
sometimes.
I was just going to say we're not talking about him anymore, but never mind. Awesome week 4 and 2 as a road trip. We really had to win. Did not start off well with the loss to the Reds, and I guess at this point in the season and the contention and battling so many teams for a playoff spot, every loss seems like really, really bad. The opening game against the Reds, and of course the game that I thought we had in hand when it hit the rain delay. I think we were up 3-1, as Vince is well aware, with guys on base even in the top of the 8th. And I really thought that game was ours for the taking, especially with our bullpen. But like Vince is saying, for whatever reason, Hader wasn't available, and bad stuff happened. They even got an insurance run, and that ended up being the difference in the game. But anyway, at least we did come away with the series win, so I'm happy with that. And moving on, we're keeping pace. I believe as of this taping, Sunday night, the Cardinals did lose today. The Brewers did take a stranglehold by half a game, I believe, of the top wild card spot, so that's exciting. But we got a big tough week ahead, but we do come back home to Miller Park for a 3-game set against the Cubs. We have to start kicking off against Cole Hamels versus Kyle Davies. That should be interesting on Labor Day. And then, of course, there's a 3-game set at home next weekend against the San Francisco Giants, who are a little bit decimated themselves, having traded Andrew McCutchen and aren't having that great of a season. I think they're out of contention. So,
and Buster Posey recently had surgery too, Craig.
Yes, he's also out for the year. So
Buster Posey will miss the series.
Have a good time to have him on the schedule, hopefully. And I hate saying that in advance because they'll end up losing the series. But anyway, I guess what are your thoughts on this upcoming week as far as what do you think the Brewers can do against the Cubs and then Giants as we battle for the playoff spot?
Well, it's been a tough road against the Cubs this year. Whether home or away, the Brewers have not played well against Chicago. A lot of those games did take place in April and earlier on in the year. So hopefully the Brewers can continue to play, a little bit better brand of baseball against the Cubs. This final 6-game stretch against them overall in the next few weeks. But it's going to be tough. And I think I think that it's really important if you're listening to this as Brewer fans to just get out to the stadium and not cede Miller Park to Chicago fans in the middle of a pennant race. I know that the Cubs fans are going to be there in droves, and I know that there's an opportunity for Brewer fans to resell tickets and make some money, but at the same time, it's got to be there has to be an element of pride involved in not allowing a stadium to get taken over by the team that you're chasing in the middle of the pennant stretch. So I'm really hoping that Milwaukee comes out strong for the team this week.
And as hardcore of a Brewer fan I am, or whatever, I actually have to, because I'm having an off day tomorrow. I'm like, hey, I'm going to go to the game. Nice pitching matchup. Brewers versus Cubs, afternoon, Labor Day. What's better? And I literally have to think about it twice. Like, do I want to go out there and heat and deal with Cubs being, in the minority of fans at our own stadium?
Right.
Right. And it sucks. And I want to think like that ever, because that's going to, exacerbate the problem if I don't go to the game. So,
right. And it's a big pain, and you're not wrong, Craig, for thinking that. I don't blame Brewers fans for thinking that way at all. I'm hopeful that we can overcome some of that essentially home field advantage that the Cubs derive when they play at Miller Park, and it becomes like a running joke, and it's very frustrating to see. You and I, Craig, got together before one of the Cubs games when I was back in Wisconsin for a week in April, as I'm sure you remember, and so I did get a chance to see the Brewers play the Cubs at Miller Park, and even back then, I think it was the first week of the year, second series of the year at home. That stadium was just it had to have been 65-70% Cubs fans. It was just disgusting.
Do you guys remember? Do you remember that episode of The Simpsons when they filmed the radioactive man in Springfield, and the mayor keeps coming up with reasons to tax them, like out-of-towners tax? I think we need something like that for Cubs fans for some of these games, because I think they're willing to pay it no matter what. I mean, it's still going to be cheaper than a ticket at Wrigley, so maybe something like that. Now, you might not be allowed to do that, so you might have to do like a, quote, hometown discount for your local people instead. But
Right. Yeah, exactly. And they've tried to do some things going into the season where the Brewers ticket office was, I forget exactly how it worked, but they were doing something to encourage, I think it was Wisconsin zip codes or whatever the case was, to buy tickets, or had the opportunity to buy tickets first. But, I think a lot of Brewer fans, it's not that they don't support the Brewers against the Cubs. I think it's that a lot of Brewer fans are, kind of like Craig pointed out, a little gun shy of wanting to go to Miller Park when the stadium is just infested with fans of, your biggest rival. And it was, I think it can be discouraging. Cubs fans are not exactly known for their polite, gentlemanly conduct as well. So I think that your average Brewer fan would rather go to, say 2 other games rather than one Cubs game when the prices are jacked up, and then you've got to deal with all these obnoxious Chicago fans. And sorry to the few good ones that are out there, but honestly, the fans that get up to Miller Park from Chicago, just, it seems to me, from my experience working there with you guys and going to a lot of games over the years, it just seems like they're the most obnoxious fans in baseball. And I think it's a deterrent to a lot of people that want to go out to games, especially at Miller Park, where there is a family atmosphere in many cases, and it is a deterrent for sure.
No, I totally agree with Scott's plan too that he came up with. That was a really good idea, Scott. To basically make, during Brewer Cubs home games at Miller Park, to make Miller Park great again, to tax the rich Cubs fans so that the Brewer fans can attend, and that's an excellent idea. I totally wholeheartedly agree with that, and hopefully we can enact that.
Will the Brewers fans turn out, though? I mean, I don't know if it's a question just of money. I think it's a matter of obnoxious behavior, and Cubs fans aren't necessarily richer than Brewer fans. They're just still paying less than they pay at Wrigley Field. So, I don't know if it's a matter of personal income. It's a matter of saying that we want to, they'll pay $100 at Miller Park, for the same ticket that costs $200 at Wrigley.
Well, I don't know if you grew up in the Milwaukee area, but people in the Milwaukee area are much more thrifty when it comes to spending their money, and it's not like that in the north side of Chicago. I'll tell you that much. But yeah,
right.
No, I mean, it is different, a little bit of a economic difference, definitely, and basically because Cub fan people, everything in Chicago, the cost of living is more in Cubs fans are used to dealing with that and not having an issue with it. So yeah, I don't think there are any euchre seats at Wrigley, so to speak, but or whatever. Even
No.
the discounted that the Brewer fans are kind of accustomed to is family all the different discounts and everything like that are Goodwill seats, which I'll like to get.
But if they make so much money, why don't they at least spend a little money and get all those weeds off their home run wall?
It's a great point. I mean, I think that the Brewers eventually are just going to have to. Brewer fans generally are just going to have to come out and support the team. I mean, regardless of cost, it still is embarrassing when you're talking about your biggest rival being in the stadium. And I don't know if a so-called tax on Illinois residents or something is the way to go. And I think that the Brewers do benefit obviously by having all these fans come up.
Well, then everyone would just buy them with their walking and flip them on Craigslist or something. Who knows?
Right.
It's a supply and demand thing. You're not going to really be able to. That's not going to really work that well. But anyway, rather than get into that type of discussion, we still have a lot to talk about in this episode or podcast, and that's, of course, David Stearns waited kind of the last final hours of the August trade deadline almost and made a flurry of moves to help the team as they do our playoff push this year. Scott, you got a breakdown of some of the trades that were made by our GM. I think they all happened within like the last 48 hours before the deadline.
Boy, howdy do I. Okay, so it was kind of an interesting day because I know that all of us were thinking, we're going to get some people that are still good, not great, but still good. And, maybe they have some overinflated contracts and we're not going to give up much of anything. So we're doing like kind of the dollar store shopping at this point. Like we're also being thrifty with what we're doing to make a callback to before. But our first one, let's see. Okay, so we traded with the White Sox. We acquired Xavier Cedeno, and we gave up left fielder Brian Connell and right-hander Johan Dominguez. So that was interesting. And then after that, this is kind of a weird one. We traded with the Nationals, and as everybody knows, Gio Gonzalez just had to walk across the diamond to join the Milwaukee Brewers. And we traded there. We gave up a little bit more. We gave up third baseman Gilbert Lara and first baseman KJ Harrison. And then finally, to round out the day, we traded with the Blue Jays. We acquired Curtis Granderson for center fielder Demi Orimolov.
Orimoloyu? Yeah, Nigerian-born.
I didn't even realize we traded him.
Yeah, Demi was in the trade. Nigerian-born prospect for the Brewers. He's been in our system for a couple of years.
That's stupid. Why did we do it? Oh, sorry. I'll wait. Let's hold a comment. Craig's got some opinions on this trade now.
But yeah, that's a good recap, Scott. That was very much a full flurry of activity day on the 31st here, and I think it took a lot of Brewers fans by surprise. I know that Ken Rosenthal had put out a tweet in the morning and said that the Brewers were active on, quote, a number of fronts, and that piqued a little bit of interest. But we've heard that a few times this year, and it's interesting. I don't, Craig, you may disagree with this, but I don't think that we gave up a ton for any of these guys, and I'll just throw out my 2 cents here. Cedeno is control. He's got great numbers this year with the White Sox, and he's controlled for another season as well. So to me, it's a good 2 year or year and a half, I guess, investment in a relief pitcher, and we can always use more arms in the bullpen, and especially with the bullpen being, I think, overworked a bit especially in the second half here. And then, getting Gio Gonzalez, he's had his struggles this year. His last 5 starts have been pretty iffy, to put it lightly, but he still is a guy that's got a decent track record, and I think that there's some talent there, and you're adding another quality arm in some regard, at least, to the system. And I think that it's not a long-term financial commitment, so I wasn't too worked up about it, simply because I don't think we gave up a ton of talent. And Granderson, he's got some flaws in his game. He strikes out a lot, but I've been a huge fan of Curtis Granderson for a long time. I was pretty excited to see him in a Brewers uniform. I think he brings a lot to the table. And Craig, I think that you mentioned it one of our podcasts, but a guy like Lorenzo Cain comes with a lot of intangibles, and I think that Curtis Granderson is the same way. He does have, I think, still decent power, and takes his walks and gets on base at a decent clip, and can still play some defense. I know his defensive metric ratings are pretty low, but I still like the fact that he can come off the bench with a little pop. I think that he brings a lot of other qualities to the clubhouse, especially for the team that's gunning for the postseason. So I'm very much in favor of the Granderson acquisition.
Hey,
and for the record,
sorry, is there any chance that Granderson instantly kind of steps up and is one of those like clubhouse leaders guys? I mean, the guy has so much playoff experience. From all accounts, he's been a class act everywhere he's gone. It'd be interesting to see, because there's sort of this like feeling that the Brewers kind of had that like a little bit of a void of player leadership in the clubhouse. I wonder if he's like one of those guys that, is just going to be great in the clubhouse.
Well, I think so. And, like you mentioned, he's been around. He's been in the league for this is his 14th season, I think, in the major league. So he's certainly seen it all and done it all by this point. He's played on a world champion team. He was with that 2009 Yankees club. He was in the World Series last year with the Dodgers, or he was on the team, I guess, down the stretch with the Dodgers. I do think that he brings a lot of leadership qualities. And already yesterday, I actually had a chance to talk with him for a few minutes yesterday, and he seemed very truly excited to be with the Brewers. He's saying all the right things. He's very positive, even on things like social media, just for the fans. And you could tell that there was a bit of a buzz about him amongst Brewer players just during batting practice yesterday. So it was pretty exciting to see him in a Brewers uniform. And he had his first at-bat yesterday. I guess it doesn't actually technically count as an at-bat. His first plate appearance, he walked, and then he actually got the start today and drew a walk in his second plate appearance as well. So it was good to see him in a Brewers uniform here this weekend.
Who didn't walk today? 11 walks? It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Crazy.
It's great, though. I mean, usually we're that team that's, free swing, and to see us draw 11 walks in the game, it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, Granderson's definitely a nice veteran with some, he plays good defense, can play all three outfield positions, hits left-handed. He's like a prototypical perfect playoff contenders add-on for an outfielder. With that being said, I don't see him starting much. Obviously, we have a pretty solid starting outfield to begin with, and then we have Keon Broxton even, who had a huge 3-run homer to give the Brewers a lead today. Don't mean to interrupt you, Craig, but Domingo Santana was brought up as well. So we've got, pretty good outfield depth at this point.
Hey,
excellent.
Should we use that to segue into all the people that we've brought up, or do you want to talk more about these trades?
I think Craig wants to talk about Cinci and Gonzalez. Yeah. Well, let me first say, I'm not too happy with Broxton and Santana. I'm not going to poo-poo on this too much, but I do like Curtis Granderson, and I don't want to rain on Vince's excitement. If he talks to him, he's a great guy. Awesome. That's pretty cool. But I'm not super happy about losing Demi Oromole, the outfield prospect. But I guess if we're going all in or whatever, like the depth will be quality, and who knows? But that doesn't. I would think he'd be available for virtually nothing. Like pick up his contract and give us some cash. I don't understand why we're giving up decent pieces. And actually, for the Gio Gonzalez trade, that's another target Vince mentioned on earlier Brew Review podcast. I think when we were inactive at the final of the July trade deadline, he threw out the name Gio Gonzalez, and I thought, well, that's a possibility. But my thought was that the Nats were going to stay in the race. At the time Vince mentioned that, it was going to kind of stay within within a couple of games of the wild card race, and therefore just not do something like that. They've fallen far enough back that obviously they've let a lot of players go now, and it was the time now to tell us to get rid of Gio at the last minute, and that's how I think the Brewers were able to do it. But like Scott did mention, when he mentioned the guys that we gave up, guys will remember that we signed Gilbert Lara as a $3 million signing bonus as a 17-year-old out of Dominican. So, however, with that being said, he's been pretty atrocious in the minor leagues for several years, and the chance of him being a major leaguer at any point is probably less than 5% at this point. So, to me, that's not a big loss, but I am very kind of disappointed. KJ Harrison was one of my favorite draft picks from the last couple of years. He's a third-rounder. He was drafted as a catcher, but can play first and third also. Left-handed bat. I think he could be like one of those sneaky good
major league guys that just, stick, I'm trying to think of, almost like a Max Muncy who's having a huge season with the Dodgers right now. Someone who's versatile. He came up as a catcher and ended up not making it as a catcher, but then transferred to first and third. I really think his bat's going to be good. But with that being said, I've been harping on the fact that we did need starting pitching depth, and if we're going to make a true playoff run, and Gio was definitely one of the best players available at the August trade deadline for sure. So, and a lot of people might argue, well, he's not better than what we have, but I think he is, and I think Vincent, I don't know what you, Scott, would probably agree that he could definitely upgrade our rotation, especially cover us for injury going forward. So definitely not complaining too much about that trade. So.
Yeah, especially, Craig, because we don't know what Zach Davies is going to bring to the table. He gets the ball tomorrow against the Cubs, but he really has only had one good rehab start, and that was at A-ball for the Timber Rattlers a week ago. And I really have a hard time. I'm hopeful of being wrong on this, but I really have a hard time thinking that guys like Zach Davies are going to come back and pitch well after being gone for such a long amount of time. And I really hope that I'm proven wrong about that this week. But if that's the case, we've got Joe Gonzalez. Or if Junior Guerra continues to struggle, he didn't look sharp again today. And it's been 6 straight starts where Junior Guerra has struggled, very, very notably. And I think that the Brewers need to be at least aware of that and have some options there as potential depth. So anyways, that's why I was in favor of the Gio move.
Absolutely. And then, Scott, the other trade that you mentioned, lefty Xavier Cedeno, he did pitch today, and he's a lefty. He's still young. I think it was a good, like Vince said, a good acquisition, not just for this year, but he's controlled beyond. And we just give up a couple of fringe prospects that, more of people use that term lottery ticket or whatever, but these guys are real, like $5 scratch off lottery ticket types. So, not going for the home run. So, I mean, definitely that's the type of move to just bolster, get another fresh lefty in your bullpen going forward. So no complaints about that one either. Be like him. So overall,
and Jennings has struggled too, Craig. That's another point I think that is worth bringing up is a lefty out of the pen. Dan Jennings had a pretty great first half, and I think he's one of those guys that really fits in that category, like we said before, of guys who maybe got a little overworked, but certainly, the second half has not been as kind to him as the first half was. So we really need to have that, loogie essentially in the bullpen. And we've seen Cedeno play in 2 games already. He played both yesterday and today for the Brewers. So he's already got 2 games under his belt as a Brewer.
Yeah, absolutely. So overall, again, it didn't seem at the, 2 days before the trade deadline, it's like, I guess these are the guys we're going with. I wasn't too confident that things would happen, but I guess starting to credit the fact that he pulled these off kind of right at the last minute, and I think it will pay off this month. And I think definitely going into this month, September, is much more exciting than any September I remember for all the way, at least since probably 2011. And I just think we have that good of a team. The team we had last year was more of like, I think I even compared it a little bit online to a ragtag bunch of team, almost like the Indians team from the fictional movie Major League, where they were just kind of patched together and they were overachieving quite a bit. That's what the team felt like, and so I didn't expect us to either make the playoffs or go far in it. This year, I really expect us to have a quality team to hopefully make the playoffs. And how deep we go, who knows? But I think it would be a disappointment if we didn't at this point. So it should be an exciting month, but we really got to take care of business against the 6 games against the Cubs, 3 against the Cardinals in particular, and go forward from there. I mean, that's 9 huge games that we have to. If we have to win the majority of those games, here we have to win at least 5 or 6 of those games. I feel for us to win, make the playoffs, and I hope that we do. So.
And not only that, but if you want to look really, really far ahead, I mean, look, 3 Pirates, 3 Reds, 3 Pirates, 3 huge against the Cardinals, and then 3 Tigers. None of those games scare me except for the terrifying Cardinals series in St. Louis. We have a chance here to put this thing away and make the playoffs. I think right now CBS Sports has this as like a 75% chance of making the playoffs, so it's kind of exciting.
Well, just our last podcast, you said it was a coin flip, Scott, and I thought it was less than that. So obviously a good week has bolstered that. But there's also a 3-team battle for the NL West, and we've got with the, I think, Dodgers, Diamondbacks, and Rockies all like within a half game of each other going in today. So, I mean, that's going to be a battle. And in the AL, on the flip side, in the AL, every single division I think has been wrapped up for a while. And even the wild card, the Yankees are almost locked into the top wild card spot. And then you got the overachieving A's. I mean, they still have a chance to win the division, but I think everyone knows the Astros will probably pull away with that. You never know. But, I mean, even the A's have a several game lead, I believe, over the Mariners. I believe they were winning today. So, that pretty much, there's not too much excitement for fans over in the AL, but in the NL, wow. I mean, even the Braves and the Phillies are still battling out for the NL East, and of course, the Cubs can be caught by us, also. So we'll see. Especially the 6 games against the Cubs. If we win 5 of those 6 games just against the Cubs, I mean, I think that we still have an outside shot at the division, but the Cubs just don't lose very often. It's pretty disheartening.
Yeah, I think at bare minimum, there's still 8 teams of the 15 National League teams that are still very much in contention, and you could maybe even stretch that to include, I guess, another team or two. But certainly 8 teams still in contention: 3 in the West, 3 in the Central, and 2 in the East. Pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think this really again goes back to the credit for Bud Selig for adding the second wild card. I think it really just and the level of excitement that I know that was not present for a lot of the years where there weren't wild cards and you literally had to win your division to have any chance to go to the postseason. So definitely a change for the better, I believe. So, all right. Well, any other thoughts before we wrap up this episode?
Yeah, I think we covered it all. Great job, guys. Good episode.
Actually, we didn't quite cover it all. Scott still, I just remembered, Scott still has the rest of, obviously, September 1st, rosters expand. The Brewers can add people beyond the roster.
Yeah, I got a list of call-ups here, Craig. So do you want me to run through those?
Yeah, let's go over those, and then we'll before we wrap up this episode, we'll just go over comment on who we think could be a factor on players that you mentioned that are now available to the Brewers. Sounds great. So as many of our fans probably know, the Brewers and all major league teams can expand their rosters from 25 guys on August 31st up to 40 guys on September 1st. So far, the Brewers have taken advantage of that by adding 7 guys to the big league club that were not there before. So in no particular order, we've called up Brandon Woodruff, Domingo Santana, Tyler Saladino, Jacob Nottingham, Keon Broxton, Corey Knebel, and Zach Davies have been our 7 call-ups at this point. So, roster is definitely being fleshed out. But we should point out that there's definitely a chance for more call-ups, going forward still. But as of right now, as of this taping, it's those 7 guys have gotten the call. Yeah, definitely guys a lot of those guys that you mentioned were huge key contributors to the Brewers' 2017 near playoff run. I mean, Zach Davies won 17 games. Keon Broxton was our starting center fielder for most of the year and did fairly well. Domingo Santana possibly was our best hitter last year overall. And so, wow, I mean, just adding those guys as fringe guys available to use off the bench or whatever, I mean, it really kind of, to me, goes to show you how much better on paper and in reality, I guess it was the same thing, that this team is than last year's Brewer team, in my opinion.
Yeah, great.
Outside of it.
Great point, Craig. It's a really good point. Tyler Saladino was, as you mentioned, able to step up and play, I think, very well for Arcia during his struggles earlier this year. He's already 2 for 2 in his return. He had a home run last night. Had a nice hit today too. Woodruff got the win today. So these guys are already contributing. And, we've talked about it. We weren't sure if Jacob Nottingham was going to be ready to come back. He was dealing with a bit of an injury as well. And good to see that the Brewers finally have 3 catchers that are available and up with the big league club again. I know that since our last taping, Manny Pino had to receive 5 stitches, but he was able to get back in the lineup today. So that's been good. Eric Kratz really had to catch quite a bit this past week. So good to see us have 3 catchers again with some depth.
Yeah, kind of like you mentioned. First of all, anybody see Nottingham pinch run the other night with the oven mitt on? trying to protect injury. So,
I did see that. Yeah, I did see that.
Broxton also with a big homer day, and like you said, Woodruff 4 shutout innings really kept our bullpen fresh for tomorrow for that Cubs series. So that's great.
Looked really good, and he was hitting 96, 97 on the gun according to the national scoreboard today here in DC. So
I'm gonna say that was a hot gun because
it might have been a hot gun. I said the same thing, but just pointing out what I observed at the stadium today. They did put that on the scoreboard as the recorded speed. Yeah. They said one time he got to 97 on the board. It was pretty interesting. So, but they also called a clear curveball a fastball on the board too. So I don't know, but in any event,
Bill Schroeder would call it, as Bill Schroeder would call it, straight as a string. That fastball.
Exactly.
But no, the Brewers and David Stearns really restocked the cavalry. I think we're ready for a playoff push. So I think that we're running out of time, guys. So until next podcast, remember, Brewer fans, to stay classy.
Stay classy.
Go Brewers.
Go Brewers, guys.
Go Brewers.